I'm Jim Check. You're watching KelownaNow. I'm here with Denys Storozhuk. We're here to talk about 1,000 days. This war's been going on in Ukraine, remembering that and hopefully finding a better path forward. But maybe just tell us a little bit about, or do you want to watch one of the videos first, or you want to talk a bit?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, so play that first video there. The other one. Yeah. Actually, let's play the other one first. There we go.
Это мой сыночек, Колпаковский Николай, 28 лет, 26 декабря 23 года. Он погиб в Старомайорске. Мы родом из Запорожья. Нам его не хватает. Это ужас. Какой парень был хороший, не женат еще был. Ничего после себя не оставил, никого. Будь проклята эта война, ненавижу ее.
Yeah, powerful. Parents having to bury their children
Every day.
It's something we never want to consider, but it's a fact of life right now over there, right?
Every day. I heard from my friends there that Ukrainian city streets are only women and children. There are no men on the street. Everybody's fighting on the front lines. And of course, many people are dead.
Yeah, and then the numbers are different depending on where you get the sources. I hear everything from 500,000 to 1 million on both, the combined of young men and women that have already offered their lives up for this. This war that doesn't seem to have much of an end. There's a promise from the incoming president to end it, but then there seems to be an escalation in this last few days by the outgoing president. So it's scary times for Ukrainians, and I imagine Russians and NATO, right? Like,
yes, it's very hard to even understand. Like sometimes I wake up and it to me it feels like it's a bad dream, nightmare. Just only 3 years ago it was
normal life.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly, for everyone.
Yeah.
And for people who had to flee the country, and like so many of them in Kelowna now, over 1,000 of Ukrainians, and many of them lost everything. Many of them from occupied territories, or their businesses were completely destroyed by, like, for example, trucking business completely destroyed by just a missile strike.
Bombings.
And they lost everything.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to take away from, but I mean, I can relate. My parents fled the Hungarian Revolution under, they're throwing Molotov cocktails at Russian tanks.
1956.
Yeah, and they escaped to here, and they were branded as terrorists for 20 years, and they couldn't even communicate with their parents. It's their whole life has changed that day, right? And no different than the people in Ukraine right now. I mean, how people lost family members, which is the worst thing, but then and then also their life's work and everything, and there's, what do you look at for a future even, right? Like, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people, I'm sure yourself, you had something going on there that, is gone, right?
Yeah, it's that's one of the problems is general mood in Ukraine right now, because like 2 years ago, for example, when Ukrainian forces were pushing Russians out, it was some hope that this will end soon and we will push Russians away from our borders. And now it's pretty clear that Putin is not going to stop and just build up his war machine, and the country, of course, 3 times bigger.
Well, a military might. I mean, it's equal to the Americans, right? As far as military machine goes, and it's no different than Canada trying to fight the Americans, right? Like it's a tough battle. I mean, it's a valiant battle in the beginning, I guess, but now it becomes.
Well, I think if all the help that Ukrainian gets from allies would be tripled or quadrupled, it would be completely different story. We have enough manpower, we just don't have enough equipment, artillery shells, and so on. And it's right now it's a fraction, it's a tiny percentage of military budget of European countries, US and Canada, and we are fighting the main enemy of all three countries, and it's ridiculous that we just on the lifeline, basically, right? So they say we support, we are allies, we can do everything, and so little is done just to keep us kind of barely surviving, and it's not fair. I would not I would not think it could ever happen like that.
It seems surreal that at this day and age, I think many of us thought that we were past big wars. I think, right? Do you know what I mean? After
it's biggest war in Europe in the last 80 years.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like like we would have thought that we would have been past that, because you would have thought the biggest thing that the Russians did was the other than Afghanistan, but in Europe was the Hungarian Revolution. You know what I mean? Like that uprising, squashing that uprising, which was, I guess, fairly localized, right? And didn't last long.
Uprising and full-scale war is completely different.
Like it was a small skirmish compared to what's in 1,000 days of this, right? Like, and it involves, like, that one was university students, and this involved everybody, right? So, and a full-scale war, really, right?
It's a whole country, 45 million people country, bigger than Canada in population, right? Being attacked, terrorized, invaded.
And again, you would have thought when we heard those words, Gorbachev tear down those walls, that would have been the end of the conflicts between
at the
Europe,
moment,
right?
Yes. So 30 years ago, that's how it felt. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's and I think that's the reason that so many countries started kind of to calm down and stop spending money, any real money on military. Yes. Like, who is the enemy to Europe? China is too far. Russia is a friend.
Many companies were investing in Russia too,
exactly.
Right? Tons and tons and tons. Like, I mean, they had McDonald's, they had everything. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just surreal that this is where we're at. And then even more so than the other war that started recently too.
Well, the double-edged sword is that all the might, most of the might of Russia comes from money that they receive for oil and gas, and they still receive it
from the Europeans.
Exactly.
Yeah, and, which is weird,
right? All this, like all the army was built for this money, and now that's the main, still their main source of income through the Grey Fleet.
The Russian, they said they were going to crush the ruble, and it actually worked. It backfired and actually strengthened, and Russia's been able to sell its oil and gas at a higher price than they were getting before.
Exactly.
Yeah. So financially, Russia's done actually better.
That's what people feel in Russia. They actually feel benefits from war. Yeah. The difference to Ukraine is that in Russia, it's right now it's only volunteers who come for very crazy money. Probably they would not ever earn it for their whole life just for signing the contract. Volunteers coming to the front, salaries rise because of this old military orders and so on. So people in Russia are quite happy. Yeah. So the sanctions did not do anything.
No. And then, but the people paying the biggest penalty, obviously the Ukrainians, right?
Yeah. And, in Ukraine, it's not volunteers; it's a draft.
Right.
Full-scale draft.
And basically, and we talked a little bit. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but like the ones that have money are finding ways to circumvent the system, right, so that their children don't go.
And it's not only soldiers, of course. Like just yesterday on another attack on Odessa, 12 people dead, just civilians. And like people just live under this constant fear of being bombed.
Yeah. So we have another video to show you too, but how, like, I mean, you communicate with people back in Ukraine on a constant basis, I'm sure, right? But are people still coming out, kind of thing, that can get out, or is it basically kind of
it's a free country, so the border is closed only for men who are military age.
Yeah.
Women,
what is that now? 18 to like 70?
To 60.
60,
not 70, no. Yeah. And women, children are free to go. And we help as much as we can, like all donations we get, we spend to help Ukraine, send generators or spend trucks North American trucks. So I think every drop counts. So we do what we can do. If we would not do anything right now, I'm sure we will regret it later.
Yeah.
Because you have to do what you can to help just cause. But people coming that came here in the last 2.5 years, of course they trying to survive. They it's Ukrainians hardworking people. Everybody who came, they found the job, they work, and they don't depend on government money. They give to economy, they pay taxes. But now, for example, we're preparing petition to federal government. Many Ukrainians are stuck in limbo because their passport expire. There is no way for them to receive new passport because Ukrainian consulate is overloaded. And the Canadian government does not prolong their work permit because they don't have Ukrainian passport. So they're stuck in limbo. And we will ask government now what to do about it, like how they're supposed to continue living in Canada legally.
Is there some hope, and I know this is probably contentious too, that there's a new administration coming in the United States that's promised to end this war on day one of his administration. And I guess there's some in Ukraine would say that that's not acceptable because they say may a treaty with Russia with some lines drawn in different places. But does it at least like just allow people to negotiate at least or something?
Exactly. Like the way it was going last year or even two was not going anywhere. With existing administration in the United States, as I'm sure it would be the same if current vice president is elected. So with Trump, we have some hope that he will change something because, of course, he have all the leverage.
He's known as the biggest bully in the world, and he's got the biggest stick in the world.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So,
exactly.
I mean, he could say because NATO is threatened and it's been soft pedaling, threatening, right? You know what I mean? And it just kind of like and then they throw a couple more crumbs and here's a tank and here, you know what I mean? But Trump is not scared to say, like, I bring the big stick and I'm not scared to use it.
Well, I don't think we are talking about direct U.S. involvement, but it's so easy. If U.S. will increase its help to Ukraine 5 times, provide all these rockets that are now legal to use against Russia, it will be a completely different situation. And it's not much money. So if he wants to, Trump can do that. The question is if he won't, but he may enforce ceasefire on Russia or worse.
He's been known to just say this is the line in the sand, and then the Americans definitely still have the biggest military machine. Right?
I'm sure it will be interesting. We will have some news.
He's made a promise, right? And that is I'm sure hopeful to many Ukrainians that still have young children that are still on the front lines, right?
And many people in Ukraine did not like Trump because of some propaganda that he has close relations with Putin and so on. But he's a man on his own,
I don't think he's owned by anybody.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So it's all propaganda. They celebrate it in Kremlin, but they don't know what they're going into.
Yeah, no, he's his own guy, right? So I think what makes him a bully or scary to many people is that he's unpredictable.
Exactly.
Right.
And I don't say that I like him personally or his politics, but definitely it's he can create a chance for Ukraine to go on because with the idea of ceasefire, it's not peace treaty. Ceasefire just kind of stop fighting. Ukraine can get more help from allies, prepare. Power can change in Russia or whatever will happen, and then we can.
Yes, because 1,000 days is almost 3 years, right? 3 years is a long time. Like
fighting every day.
Yeah, and day. If you think about the world wars, like 5 years and something. You know what I mean? Like that, and at the end, people are tired and don't want to. I mean, that's why we thought we'd seen the last of this kind of stuff, right? Because it's a very when you have to bury somebody, or you don't even have anything to bury, right, other than a photograph, right? Do you know what I mean?
Well, originally there were big hope that Russian economy will collapse, the sanctions will work, or Russians will get tired of war. It does not happen.
Yeah, and the BRIC nations have actually gotten tighter together, right? We've actually pushed, or this has pushed Russia and China closer together, and China's an economic power and a military power.
North Korea is in
Yeah.
Those Korean troops is in Russia.
Yeah, so I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, we've kind of split the world in half now, right? Which we thought was kind of over with as well, right? We had a global economy.
Had so many mistakes that were done 3 years ago, pretty sure.
Yeah, and all we can do is hope for a better day. We got another video to show you too.
1000 днів боїв.
1000 днів терору.
1000 днів втрати людських життів.
1000 днів війни проти України.
1,000 days of military assistance.
1,000 days of humanitarian aid.
1,000 days of speaking out.
1,000 days of standing by your side.
That's okay, Ronald. Yeah.
Yes, one of my big surprises is, of course, Russians, like regular Russian citizens. We were so sure that they, like, with access to internet now, although it's slowed down and so on, but they can still access it, that they don't rise up, they don't kind of voice.
They don't say that's enough.
Yeah, they don't voice stop war. They're really afraid of all this machine and all this.
But I mean, and the sad thing is too, is many of these were Russians and Ukrainians living together too.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like in the cities that are like now part of Russian territory, this was many Russians in there, right?
Yes, well, that was one of the preposition of the war, and actually in Ukraine it's considered that the war started in 2014. 8 years ago, 10 years ago now, when Russia occupied Crimea and started the proxy war.
Because it took little pieces and little pieces, right?
And now it's just full-scale invasion. So, and back there, like 10 years ago, there were people in eastern Ukraine that were supporting Russia because they were watching the media of mass destruction. It's like weapon of mass destruction. They were watching Russian news all the time. They were watching Russian TV channels, and they were so fed by propaganda that there are some Nazis in Ukraine or whatever, that they did wanted to join Russia, and they did welcome Russian forces. But in exchange for that, they just got ruined cities, no economy, and I don't think anybody is happy.
At some point, they shared a similar government too, because Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union as well, right? And there's people kind of all over throughout and everything, right?
Yeah,
so
like 30, I would say even 30 years ago, 33 years ago, there was no difference between Russia and Ukraine in this way, especially
even the food and the
Ukraine.
culture, some of it, right?
Yeah,
like it's very similar, right? So it's
absolutely.
like brothers fighting brothers almost, right?
Yeah, but when Soviet Union collapsed 31 years ago, my personal thought was, okay, now we had one country with one politic, and now we have 15 independent countries, and each of them have their own chance to succeed and to show, like some will fail, some will succeed, and their own ways, being friends, obviously, but one will succeed, one not. But for Putin, authoritarian powers that he created, for him it was Ukraine was very big challenge, most of all because Ukraine is democratic country more or less, and the life in Ukraine was increasing. There was Ukraine finally got the visa-free regime with Europe. So Ukrainians can come to Europe without any visa, and people living better and better. And Putin thought that for him it's the biggest threat, that Russians will see that another country, same people as they, started to live better, freely, can go to Europe anytime they want. And for Putin it was the biggest threat, that Russians will still start to think, oh, why do we need Putin? We can do democracy.
And it is their largest border with Europe, though, too. I mean, it's surrounded. Ukraine is surrounded on three sides, right? By Russia, right? I mean, it's kind of like sticks inside of like Russia there, right?
Yeah, so there were many reasons for him to do it. He felt threat to his power in this way. He also had these geopolitical ambitions. He see himself as the next big Tsar. He wants to be in history books.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of, like, if you watch, there's a couple documentaries on him, a lot of pride over the Second World War, where he thought Russia won that war for the Allies, and that Russia never got the credit that it deserved for
and it's
winning
part
that
of
war.
Russian propaganda. It was always like that. I agree. In Soviet Union, the Allies were mentioned as just little things that helped a little bit, maybe.
There's no doubt that the Russians played a big role.
But Soviet propaganda and Russian propaganda was always that Soviet Union itself would win this war for sure on its own. Just maybe it was just a bit faster because US helped.
It definitely,
which is complete bullshit.
But I think there was a lot of that is he thinks that Russia doesn't get the credit it deserves, right? And that's where he's exercising his authority.
It's just personal ambitions.
And we can't fix that ourselves.
But it's funny that these little things, led to the full-scale invasion.
How can people help? I guess 1,000 days. How can regular Canadians help, and what can we do to kind of help, the people that are obviously suffering?
Well, there are ways to help, of course, kind of materially, financially. We have two organizations now. Our primary organization, Kelowna Stands with Ukraine, it's dedicated to help Ukraine to survive. So we have a channel for humanitarian help and for military help. So the trucks that we buy go right to the front line, and they're expendable. Russians destroyed those, heavy-duty F-350 Ford trucks right away, but we're still sending them. And humanitarian channel goes to generator, medical equipment, and so on. We just had an event a few days ago with Rotary Club fundraising money for shipping container full of medical supplies to Ukrainian hospital. So that's one way. We also organize interesting concerts of Ukrainian performers. So you can come just by visiting the concert. You're already participating in the cause, and we have auctions of interesting artifacts from Ukraine. The one concert comes on November 28th. It's Ukrainian choir Gerdan, and then another concert on November 30th is Ukrainian singer, jazz and soul music. So part of ticket proceeds go to help Ukraine. And then we have a new organization right now that we applied to be charitable, is Okanagan for Ukraine. And this is completely humanitarian organization that tries to help Ukrainian refugees here. So mostly single moms with kids and so on.
Because there's no fathers that came with
no father, and they're not considered refugees by the government. They don't get type of refugee assistance, so they're on their own. Things like that, or organizing different like holiday, like Christmas for Ukrainian kids, getting present, getting the celebration for them, so they don't feel so.
Is there
depressed.
A website people can go to, or is there places?
Our Facebook group, Kelowna Stands with Ukraine. That's very easy to remember. Just type in Facebook, Kelowna Stands with Ukraine. You get to our Facebook group where we have all these announcements and the ways. You can donate. You can participate as volunteer in these events and so on. But the other way is also to apply pressure to the government, right? You could not apply much, but if you just force it, support Ukraine, even just show it in your social media, whatever, Ukrainian flag, it all helps to remember about that. And of course, people in Ukraine, they see it, and it brings them
even if this new administration helps find peace for Ukraine, there's going to be a big job trying to rebuild Ukraine, right? I mean, that in itself would become a monumental task, right?
We actually, it's one of our projects now, capstone with UBCO. We getting together Canadian engineer students of UBCO and Ukrainian engineers to discuss future plans to rebuild Ukraine, what interesting initiatives could be in regards to that, and good engineering products for Canadians to participate. So definitely that will be a big job.
I mean, it would be a better job to do for sure, right? As opposed to what we're having to deal with right now, right? Because, every day when we talk about 1,000 days, I don't know how many lives are lost on an ongoing basis.
Not only lives, but infrastructure.
Yeah, but
The Russians specifically target infrastructure
to cripple the economy,
yeah,
to cripple
exactly.
everything, right?
Cripple economy, and they want people to spend another winter without heat, without electricity, and so on.
Yeah.
So they terrorize people, and they hope that Ukrainians will just give up. But giving up is not an option, because we saw what happened in Bucha, in all these occupied territories on east of Ukraine. It's just complete terror, no law. People just shot on the side.
There's an administration that came in with a big promise, and I hope the world holds into that promise, right? So, yeah.
That's our biggest hope, but it does not mean that we just should sit and wait.
No,
right? We do what we can, because our motto is, if you don't do something now, we will regret later that we were not part of this. Like, imagine yourself in World War II right now, and you're not doing anything to help.
Yeah, you can't wait. I mean, I can say with my mom and dad, they heard America Free Radio saying the Allies are coming, which were never coming, right? They were never coming, right? So,
well, it's politics, but anyway, it's millions of us, right? Yeah. And we can make the difference easily. Yeah. If you don't do anything, evil will always prevail.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for coming in today to shed some light on this, to shine a light on this, and hopefully people can take a few moments to watch it and to try to understand it, and then do what you can.
Please spend some time today. We will post some interesting stories in our group, and
because that video was from today, right?
Yeah,
that video is taking place. That the first video we watched was taking place in Kyiv today.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. We thank you for watching Kelowna Now.
Thank you.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.